Greetings and welcome to another video. It's Friday, the 2nd of August 2019. I am Aaron Telford and welcome to another video where I'm talking Star Trek. One thing I've been thinking about recently, inspired by real life situations, is that if you're new to Star Trek, never really watched it before, and you're interested, however, to give it a go, get into it, see what you think, what's the best way to go about doing that? The reason why I thought about that is because most of my friends, well, at least some of them anyway, aren't really Star Trek fans. I'm not really interested in the TV shows, but that said, they really do enjoy the films. They like to occasionally, at least, sit down, enjoy the films, and all that. And I'm really grateful to them for putting up with me being a bit crazy sometimes about being a Star Trek fan myself. But anyway, so yeah. Well, it all got me thinking, like, because at the moment there are 7 versions of Star Trek on television. There's the original series, the animated series, the Next Generation, then you've got Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Voyager, you've got Star Trek Enterprise, and finally you've got the most recent version of Star Trek Discovery. And all of that you can find on Netflix, basically. It's all on Netflix. And then on top of all that, you've got 13 films. You've got the original 6 with Captain Kirk and his crew. You've got 4 films with the Next Generation crew, Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise D. And you've got 3 Kelvinverse rebooted Star Trek films starting in 2009. Then you've got Into Darkness and finally Star Trek Beyond. And yeah, I know it can be quite a lot to get into if you're ever interested to give it a go. So, how do you go about doing that? Well, to begin with, let's make it crystal clear. There is no right or wrong way to go about watching Star Trek. There just isn't. Anyone who does say that there has to be a certain way of going about Star Trek and it has to be done this way, set in stone, forget it. Forget that person. Don't listen to what they're saying. It's just hassle. So what I'm gonna say, being fully aware I'm about to contradict myself possibly, is give you advice. You don't have to follow what I'm saying. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying. It's just maybe something to think about, and it's entirely up to you how you go about getting yourself introduced to Star Trek. And yeah, it's entirely up to you how to do it. I'm just putting forward a possibility of one way. So yeah. If you're brand new to Star Trek, I would suggest starting off with the films, basically. Just focus on the films. And like I said, there are 13 films which you can break down and separate into 3 separate groups. The first section would be the original 6 movies. Then there's the second section, which is the Next Generation series of 4 films. And then you've got the third section, which is the Kelvinverse rebooted films of 3 films. And yeah. Now, how you go about watching these films is entirely up to you. You can watch them in order of appearance. For example, the original 6 films, followed by the Next Generation films, followed by the rebooted films. Or you can mix it up a bit, say the rebooted films then the original films from Next Generation, or the Next Generation followed by the rebooted, followed by the original 6. Either way, it's up to you how you mix them up. But I will say, whichever section you're following, follow them in order. For example, when you watch the original 6, follow them. You know, watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't have to do that, but that said, with the original 6 films, it is a good idea to watch the second one, third one, and fourth one in order, because they are a trilogy, and what happens in the second film does happen in the third and fourth film. So when you're watching Wrath of Khan, follow that by Search for Spark, and then follow that by Voyage Home. That little trilogy you do have to watch in order, basically, but all the rest you can basically watch it all in any order you want, basically. Yeah, that's basically the only rule. Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 3 Search for Spark, Star Trek 4 Voyage Home, I'd say they're the only ones you have to watch in order. Every other film, you can watch in any order you want, basically. And that is true of all 13 films, basically. But at the same time, to keep it all consistent, whichever order you watch it, do the original 6 as one group, then the Next Generation as another group, and then the rebooted films as a third group. But yeah, that's just my opinion. After that, it's up to you how to do it. So yes. As for the TV shows, basically the same rule applies. You can watch any of them in any order you want, basically. Now, when it comes to the history of the Star Trek universe itself, when it comes to the Star Trek timeline within the Star Trek universe, the timeline kind of goes Star Trek Enterprise, then Star Trek Discovery, then Star Trek the Original Series, then Star Trek The Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine, then Voyager. That's a Star Trek timeline in order of appearance, but in the real world, the world that we all live in, basically, the order of appearance was when each TV show came onto television, which was Star Trek the Original Series, followed by Star Trek the Animated Series, followed by The Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, followed by Star Trek Enterprise, and most recently, Discovery. And because of all that, like I say, it doesn't really matter which version of Star Trek you watch first. It's entirely up to you. You can watch Discovery first, or you can watch DS9 first, or you can watch the original series first, or Voyager first, whichever one you prefer to watch. And the structure of each series is fortunate. How is it all fortunate? Well, it's kind of like pick and mix, basically. Let's take Star Trek The Next Generation as an example. And Star Trek Voyager is pretty much the same setup as well. In the sense that you can jump into both Next Generation and Voyager ran for 7 years. And you can randomly pick any season from 1 to 7, randomly pick any one, and randomly pick any episode. Just jump in, watch it, and yeah, you can randomly pick season 1 episode 5, followed by season 6 episode 10, followed by season 7 episode 1, and so on and so forth. And for the most part, at least, about 95 to 98% of the time, the episode you're watching will not have much in common with all the other episodes, apart from the fact that you're dealing with the same characters and the same starship. So you will be jumping in and out quite a lot, and yeah. So if you're, and it's I think the same kind of thing with Star Trek the original series as well. So you can just like be like, oh, I'm going to watch this episode today, or watch that episode another day, that kind of thing. Now with DS9, and to a lesser extent Enterprise, they do have story arcs which span an entire season. So what you see, for example, in episode 3 of season 3 of Star Trek DS9 will be shown up again at some point in some way, shape or form in season 3 episode 20 or season 4 episode 15, that kind of thing. So yeah, but you can still jump in and out like a pick a mix to a point anyway. So if you do that with any version of Star Trek, figure out which one turns out to be your favourite, or the one you, if not favourite, then one you like the most, or if you find yourself starting to like this particular series some way in the first place. However you describe it, however your opinions of Star Trek happen to formulate, if you're at the position where you're starting to like the particular version of Star Trek that you're starting off with and starting to get into, whichever version you've chosen, then that's the point really, to go back to the pilot episode or episode 1, season 1 kind of thing, and just watch it properly all the way through, and just see how you think from there, basically. There is a bit of a thing though, like with Next Generation, the first 2 seasons are not great. Basically, it's like season 3 onwards of the Next Generation, that's when it gets good. Me personally, I love all 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, especially the first season, but at the same time, season 1 of DS9 isn't as good as, say, season 2 onwards. But yeah, Voyager, as I said in my previous video, I'm not a fan of in the first place. I don't like that. But if you find yourself enjoying Voyager more than anything else, then that's fantastic. Respect to you for that. I respect your opinions and all that. As for me, I'd say the best versions of Star Trek on the television are going to be the original series of Captain Kirk, the animated series, The Next Generation of Captain Picard, and Deep Space Nine of Captain Sisko. Those are my personal favourites of Star Trek, and I've got them all on DVD. Well, I'll be getting, well, not yet the animated series, I've got to sort that out, but I've got all the rest on DVD, so I enjoy watching those. I've got season 1 of Voyager on DVD, to be honest with you. Entertaining, but no, to be fair, my one best friend got me season 1 of Voyager on DVD as a Christmas present, and because of that, I appreciate that, and I do watch it occasionally. I do watch it occasionally, and I'm going to keep that because sentimental reasons, but yeah, but either way, like I said, I'd say the best versions of Star Trek are the original series, The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. But at the end of the day, it's up to you how you approach it and which version turns out to be your favourite, your preferred option. But at the end of the day, everything I've just said is, in my opinion, the best way to approach getting yourself introduced to Star Trek. Start off with the films, see how you go with the films, and well, if after watching the films you only want to stick with the films and you're satisfied with the films, then that's fine, that's fantastic, there's no problem with that at all. As I said before, a lot of my friends are exactly the same way. But on the other hand, if after watching the films you want to take it a step further and dip into the TV shows properly, then everything I've just said is how I would suggest you go about it. But it's entirely up to you how you approach it and how you proceed and to what extent you think what I've said is worth listening to. At the end of the day, it's up to you. But yeah. On that note, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you all for watching. I do appreciate the time you made to watch this video. Hope you all have a really good Friday. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and I'll see you all soon in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.